So Simon, why did you pick this video in particular to talk about today?
Because it's got penises in it.
Oh man, you're going to fit right in on this channel.
Well, I was like, dude, it was on the first, I go to go pick an article from Fiend. So I go over there, and on the front page, I see two things about penises. One about Superman's penis, and one about Henry VIII's penis. And so I was like, well, I guess Karl likes penises. So here we go.
I've said it before, there's just nothing funnier than a flaccid penis. I feel really nervous now. Because you're like good at this. This is your job.
Do you want me to? Henry VIII was an English medieval king, best remembered today for being a huge honking fat ass who spent. You're always really better, man. You know, do it your way. It's 100 times better.
But like just hearing you do it, it's like, oh man, I wonder if people would rather listen to that instead. So I'm going to try again.
Well, I mean, maybe I should read it and you should make the jokes because then we'll be sticking to our core competencies.
Henry VIII was an English king best remembered by his subjects being a honking fat ass who spent the majority of his reign ploughing at a series of increasingly hot wives in an attempt to sire an heir. At the time he lived, though, he was perhaps better known for walking around with an iron-plated penis.
Did they get increasingly hot as wives? You said that they're increasingly hot wives, but I don't know, in the movies and stuff, I thought Anne Boleyn is always the hot one. Isn't she the second one, right?
I don't know, I just used that because it sounded funny to write down. Maybe our researchers can do this. So I do some research myself, but if the editor would like to put a picture of his wives in order of when he married them, and I guess the audience at home, you can judge. Was I correct in my assumptions? I just thought that's a funny way to word it. Because he did spend the majority of his reign just getting married over and over again in a desperate attempt to have a daughter. Right, is it his son he wanted?
Yeah, definitely. Because then he's got to have the because that's how it works, right? You pass on to the oldest son to make him the next king. And he just couldn't. It just wasn't working out for him.
And he spent so much of his reign just like repeatedly getting married that I need to get a son. And then for some reason he blamed it on his wives.
Well, I guess their understanding of science wasn't awesome. And also when you're the king, I get the feeling it's just like, yes, Your Majesty, you're absolutely right. It's the wives.
I can guess like he'd have that like thought after maybe the second wife. But after the sixth one, it's like maybe the problem is you here.
Yeah, or maybe it's just like, I mean, he had daughters, right?
Yes. I'm sure there'll be a fact bar below about the children that he did sire, but he was legitimately blaming his wives. So after the sixth one, maybe the problem is your coxmanship, Sir Henry. Or King Henry, I should say.
You would think.
But no, blame it on the wives. Like, you know, a story that's been true since time immemorial, I suppose.
So, I mean, this is all well and good, but this is to do with a 2.5 pound cod piece, right? I looked at the title. I definitely want to hear about that. What's with cod pieces?
Well, cod pieces, they're mostly known as being quite funny today because they do look hilarious. And I'm hoping as I say this, like some pictures of like cod pieces will be behind me. And my favourite one is if you go on the Wikipedia page for cod piece, one of the pictures showcasing what a cod piece is a portrait a guy commissioned of him stood with his dog staring at his own cod piece.
Oh, I saw this in the article. I guess that would be on your green screen, right?
Yeah, I can see it. I'm looking at it right now, and the audience now has to confront it as well. And I just want to know, like, if I could be a fly on the wall at a point in history, that's definitely somewhere I'd want to go to see how that portrait got commissioned. So you want you stood there, yes, faithful. I mean, your faithful companion by your side, yes. And what should the dog be doing? Staring directly at my penis.
Yeah, it's like, no. Move its head up just a little bit so the mouth is just a little bit closer to your cock.
These are like random, candid photos. This was an actual portrait he had to pose for. And that's what he decided upon. It's great. I love it.
And what does he have in his right hand? It looks like he's got a razor or something. So he's, there's a lot of stuff going on in this photo, Karl.
I don't know. It reminds me a lot. Have you ever seen those like portraits that farmers would have done of their big rectangular cows and sheep?
Oh, yeah. There was like a phase where this was how they were painted, right?
If people don't know what we're talking about, there'll be some examples behind me. These large like trapezoidal cows and farm animals, where the whole point was farmers wanted to show off their wealth and status. So what they would do is have portraits commissioned in which their animals were the biggest, buffiest you've ever seen. But they were just these completely unrealistically large, square cows.
But people knew they were paintings. Like, they'd seen cows. So they were just like, oh no, I guess this guy's just got the best cows that, I guess that's just what his are like.
I look at pictures like that And I think, how could people be this stupid? I remember when I was a kid, I genuinely thought that tunas were very, very small fish because tuna came in small cans. And it wasn't until years later that I found tunas are like 10 foot long. Like they're the size of like dolphins, which is why dolphins get caught in their nets. Holy shit.
I really only found this out when I must have been a teenager and I was on holiday in France with my parents. And in France they have those like big fish counters, like bigger than we get in the UK, where they have like, giant fish and stuff.
Yeah, they just have like the sad snapper.
Yeah, it's like in France, they'll have like a swordfish and a tuna. And I said to my dad, what's that? And he's like, that's a tuna. I'm like, no.
Because they come in such small cans.
Yeah,
so I'm thinking, like, if you're only used to certain cuts of meat, maybe you think the animal it comes from is just that cut of meat, just bigger, maybe. I don't know, but...
I had an embarrassing one the other day. I thought that a red herring, like you say like a red herring. We did a video on this. I really thought...
Oh, do you make videos, Simon?
I do make some videos. I'm sorry, Karl. I get my plugs in at the end.
Okay.
I really thought for the whole time it was a red heron. So in my mind, I was always thinking of red herons, which is not correct.
Oh, man. There's loads of stuff like that, though. And I'm sure that we'll cover that another day. But first, we need to talk about these cod pieces. So before we move on, for anyone wondering like what the purpose of a cod piece is, they were invented many years ago when men didn't really wear trousers, or I guess pants for the Americans watching, and they instead wore breeches, which were just like big stockings for men, which had a very unfortunate gap at the top, right where the wang was. So it became customary, if not downright essential, for men to cover or conceal that area with a custom-designed piece of clothing, later known as a codpiece. However, it soon became quite the go-to fashion accessory for men who wanted to accentuate or otherwise show off their penile region. So all men, really.
I don't get it, though. Why would you make these breeches and stockings, but they wouldn't cover your crotch? It feels, when I'm getting, dressed, that's the only bit that's really double covered.
Yeah, like men would wear underwear, so underwear were a thing, and then you'd wear your breeches, and then sometimes they'd be stitched together at the top, like haphazardly, but most of the time they weren't, and I think it's more pronounced in things like suits of armour. If you ever see like suits of armour where like the greaves go up to the top, then there's nothing protecting the actual bit you'd want protecting. It's one of those quirks of clothing where it just wasn't on people's mind, even though it's the most obvious thing, like for someone with looking back on history. And it's stuff like I think you mentioned it in the video, haven't you? Like the T-shirt. I think I wrote that one where people didn't invent, like they didn't know what a T-shirt was, or they never thought of it as like a garment they could wear.
Yeah, I mean, until like the mid 20th century, right? It was just something that people wore as an undershirt, and then they were like, oh, we could just not wear our shirts on top of this, and thus the T-shirt.
And then you have jeans, which were, I think some guy just sewed some canvas together for trousers, because he went, well, every piece of clothing I wear just gets torn apart immediately. The only thing that I own that isn't being destroyed, my canvas on my my wagon. Maybe I should make my clothes out of that. And that's how jeans were invented.
Am I right in thinking he also was it the first dude, he put the rivets in it as well, the metal rivets, which helped hold it all together for the...
Yeah.
Was it for gold miners?
It was originally for miners back in the days like the gold rush. And it was just a guy looked at it and went, what are the most hard-wearing things that I have? Oh, the canvas covering my wagon and the rivets holding the canvas down. Just make clothes out of that.
That looks comfortable. Let's get that on my legs.
They weren't comfortable, but they did last a very long time. I think for the video that you did that I researched, one of my favourite facts I discovered was, oh, here's a complaint letter from a guy that he wrote, I think it was to Levi Strauss of Levi's, where he said, oh, I've worn my jeans every day for 3 years and I've got a rip in them. This is clearly an unacceptable thing. Are you going to replace them? And can you imagine that today with any item? I've used it every day for 3 years and it's got a minor bit of wear and tear on it. This is unacceptable. You must replace them.
I feel like if it's within the first year, right, then you get a warranty. Because a friend of mine, he buys a pair of jeans and he says he always gets a wear on his thighs in the same place. Like he always gets a hole on the thigh. So he just takes it back and they give him a new pair of jeans. And it always happens within a year. So he's always just got a new pair of jeans all the time because they tend to wear through. And I think there's that policy of they'll give you a new one if it's within a year. But 3 years, and especially back in the, 19th century, I don't imagine consumer protection was quite so hot.
Yeah, no, but he was at Levi Strauss. He was so concerned with the reputation for quality how he did replace those jeans. I just thought it was funny to compare to today. Oh, it broke after 3 years, and the owner of the company's like, oh shit, I better replace this. So I'm pretty sure if you tried that
nowadays, it'd be like, wow, it lasted 3 years. It's basically a miracle.
Yeah, if I tried that in the Apple store, I think they'd just tell me to get out.
Just try it H&M. Hey,
man.
I tried wearing this more than 4 times. All right, so, I mean, we're talking about codpieces. This is to do with Henry VIII's codpiece. Was his, like, super awesome or something? Because he's, like, the big chief or what?
Yeah, he was a fan of codpieces, to say the least, and obviously using his wealth, status, and influence. He had many, many codpieces designed, which were, they range from, like, remarkably intricate to just offensively large, I think some would say. And there are many, many portraits. Again, I'm hoping some examples of which are behind me. But it's arguable that the collective crown jewels of the Henry VIII's codpiece collection were the codpieces featured on his many suits of armor.
Yeah, I saw a video, and it was just like the camera was zooming around one of his suits of armor, and it looks like there's just an absolutely, I mean, just like unrealistically massive bulge on his suit of armor. That also, I mean, it looks like it's so large, it looks like surely it gets in the way.
Yeah, it could be used as, like, a defensive or offensive weapon if, like, the situation required it. And the thing I love about that video is it was, like, released by the Royal Armouries. So, it's a super prestigious organisation, and they've tried very hard not to highlight the codpiece. Yeah. Because they know that's too lowbrow for them. So they just show this really classy, tasteful, just panoramic shot of the armour. And they try very hard not to show the codpiece, but then it scrolls up or down. I forget which way it goes up, but then you see the codpiece just loom into frame like a Star Destroyer in Star Wars. So, what the hell is that?
The suit sort of spins around and you get like this momentary glimpse of it just in profile poking out. And I was like, no, I got to pause the video on that. So
yeah, you don't believe it's real. And I think to this day, like, the most popular exhibit in the Royal Armouries is a suit of King Henry VIII's armour, purely because nobody believes how big the codpiece is. And that was a feature present on every piece of armour he had made.
I mean, it is bizarrely huge.
To the point where it's comical. It is comically large. We cannot overstate how insanely huge this codpiece is. And as people have probably guessed, it was done on purpose. And the rumour is that King Henry VIII did it to quell the rampant rumours about his virility and or lack thereof in regards to his complete failure to sire a suitable heir. And that, to me, what a way to do it. What a way to address that rumour.
You're not really very versatile. Oh, yeah? Well, check out my massive penis covering.
Yeah, oh, man. And the thing as well, he'd wear that to tournaments. Like, I feel so sorry for the poor horse he had to ride.
Yeah, it's going to be digging into that horse's back.
Like, that's that poor horse. Or, imagine, 'cause obviously King Henry didn't put his own armour on. Someone else had to do that for him, which was seen as being quite a prestigious position, because obviously the direct contact you have with the king. But never before has that statement been more literal. You are imagine the guy who's got to do it on 2 men carrying it over. Is it the Atlas stones they do in World's Strongest Man?
Oh, I don't know.
Do you know those huge big boulders that they get World's Strongest Men have to put onto a big plinth? That's what I'm imagining, how they attach the codpiece to his armour as the final piece. And what I would like now is for the editor, if they can do this, can you please Photoshop one of those huge buff men? Instead of an Atlas stone, it's just King Henry's codpiece. Just lifting it on their shoulder.
The super obvious question here is, I mean, yeah, it's got to do with virility and stuff, but is the idea that he's basically making a statement that he's got a massive penis? Or
yeah.
Okay.
It's both.
Do we know anything about that? I know some people's, isn't there the rumor, was it Napoleon's penis was cut off or something and kept somewhere?
There's so many rumors about that. There's the Rasputin one.
Yeah.
Where it's he was rumored to have a 1.5 foot long penis or something like that. And this is a weird fact, and I don't know why I know this, but one of the direct quotes we have about its size comes from his daughter. So if someone wants to research that on their own, feel free to go ahead, but I'm not going to talk any more about that.
We're having a good laugh about this, and
we are.
I mean, in 2020, any time we've been alive, looking at these dudes with their penis coverings, essentially, and huge penis coverings. Did people not realize the absurdity of this back in the day?
I think it wasn't so much as absurd as it was just like a curiosity back then. Because during Henry VIII's time, obviously, he did it to quell those rumours, and it was a very obvious and ostentatious just like act of showing off. But it's noted that even like in the 18th century, people were notably more prudish than they are today. Because obviously today we can laugh at this. In the 18th century, ladies of especially high standing were said to go to where King Henry VIII's armour was on display and then use pins to poke the fabric covering underneath, which is unfortunately since then just like eroded away. And
why?
They would poke it because it was under the belief that it would increase their chances of like getting pregnant, which is a bit weird considering
six wives and like no boys. Or,
yeah.
Like, I don't know how many children, it wasn't many.
And while it's true that Henry VIII basically failed on all counts to get women pregnant the way he felt they should get pregnant, the fact that centuries after he died, women thought his penis was so potent it could help them get pregnant from beyond the grave, his attempts to prove that were pretty successful. Okay, so Simon, I'm hoping people have recognised your dulcet tones by now, but for anyone who hasn't, would you like to introduce yourself to the lovely people at home?
Yeah, I'm Simon. I also am a YouTuber. I have a few different channels.
You have a lot of channels.
I realize I'm terrible at plugs. Yeah.
But every time I watch like a Today I Found Out video, you are plugging another channel that you run. Like, do you even have a list of like the total amount of things that you do on YouTube?
I think if you go to my website, just simonwhistler.com, which is just one of those, about me pages, because I don't know.
Okay, you got a website.
Yeah, well, a website is literally a redirect to a free About Me page.
That's awesome.
I should really get set up with a proper website. And that does have a list, probably out of date, because I just launched a couple of new channels like in the last 6 months. So
that's like the fact that you can't even remember and have to direct people to an out-of-date website that has like less information than is currently available. She said, "How do you do it?"
Well, that's because I'm busy launching new channels and not updating my website.
So I thought about launching like a secondary Fact Fiend channel, and then I realised I'd have to work so much more. I couldn't handle it.
It's definitely more work having more channels, but I don't know. To answer the question you didn't ask, I don't really know why I do it. Maybe I just hate myself.
Okay, fair enough. Well, that's true of most creative people, so that makes sense. That answer speaks to me and resonates on a level that cuts too deep to talk about in a comedy video. But I think it's me and you. We have like a professional relationship going back a few years, but I think it's like the second time we've ever talked properly.
The first time we ever talked was when I've got a podcast that I do. Called The Brain Food Show, and
yeah, go on, plug it, do it.
Yeah, there we go. See, look at that, slick. I think it was like the first or second episode at the beginning. I mean, it's a show about facts these days, but back in the beginning, we were thought, yeah, let's interview people as well, which was a bit of a random decision. But you came on. This must have been like, I don't know. It was just as your channel was starting to take off, I think, and you were,
yeah. And
we just had a chat about that, and then since then, you've become massive. And it's been super nice to watch.
Not King Henry VIII massive, but I'm trying.
No, you'll get there with time.
The weird thing is though that people don't seem to realize that we even if we don't know each other personally that well, we have worked on the same stuff for years. I think I got a tweet the other day from someone. So I was watching a Today I Found Out video, and Simon's calling you out.
Oh yeah, no, I saw that as well. Someone trying to stir something up, I'm actively, being mean to you by calling you unintelligible. You just replied, yeah, we know each other.
And if you scroll to the end of the video, it's like, I wrote that article. I didn't put that line in though. So I think that might have been added by Davin. Maybe he's trying to stir something up. You might have heard that sweet YouTube drama gets all the clicks and stuff. But yeah, I found that really amusing.
That's going to be my next channel, YouTube drama.
Oh, do it. Because you're so prominent on YouTube just because just how ubiquitous the content that you produce is. How does that feel for you? I've always wondered because you run so many channels and obviously you're the face of them all. How often do you have to deal with the weird side of YouTube? Because I don't get to ask people this very often, especially not on camera and put them on the spot.
Well, I don't know. I imagine you must get weird emails, right?
Oh yeah, I'll be talking about that with another person I'm hopefully getting to record a video with. whose their profession is being naked on the internet.
Whoa.
And they've told me on multiple occasions that I get weirder DMs than they do. So hopefully that'll be a laugh riot when they can get on. But
wow, yeah, I'll definitely have to check that one.
But it's a strange one. But I'm hoping that people enjoyed this brief crossover episode. I'm hoping Simon wants to do it again.
I would love that. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for thinking of me and inviting me on.
Yeah, no problem.